Area Cooling Solutions presents a series of videos on commissioning instructions for iCOOL CO2 units. In this episode, we will show you how to prepare the unit for the commissioning. In this video, the commissioning instructions of iCOOL CO2 units are presented on a training or test stand that does not include some elements of a real installation. Real installation must be carried out in accordance with the applicable standards, regulations, and guidelines contained in the operating manual. After preparation of the installation, prepare the unit for commissioning. When the unit arrives on site, a visual inspection of the pallet, package, and the unit should be performed. At this stage, it is important to assess if the unit has been damaged during transport. Any damage must be documented, described, and reported. It is important to check the pressure gauges located on the unit. Our units are nitrogen charged around 10 bar before leaving the factory. Lack of pressure might be a sign that the unit could have been damaged during transport. Mounting of the unit. Each unit must be properly mounted. This enables trouble-free operation and lower operating costs. The maximum ambient temperature defined at 43 degrees C should not be exceeded. In addition, avoid direct sunlight and protect the unit from significant snow accumulation in its area. All rules for correct installation are described in the appendix to the manual. The next step is to connect the unit to refrigeration circuit on site. The unit is equipped with K65 copper pipe connections. It is very important not to confuse the suction line with the liquid line. To avoid any confusion, unit piping connections are properly indicated. The unit can be connected with a brazed or screw connection. It is important that it meets the maximum working pressure that can occur in each piping section. After the release of nitrogen through the discharge service valve, open the ball valves on the unit's connections. Prepare for the strength pressure test by removing the safety valves on the liquid line on the receiver and on the suction side of the system. The use of three-way valves is recommended. It makes servicing easier and faster. Perform an installation strength pressure test. Our advice is to have the maximum working pressure the same for both liquid and suction lines. It is then much quicker to carry out the test because we only have one PT test pressure value. The PT test pressure is 10% higher than the maximum working pressure of the section. The unit has already passed all pressure tests in the factory, but when testing the installation, you can also fill the unit itself with nitrogen. If the PS values of the suction and liquid lines are different, note that the strength will have to be checked in 2 stages. The entire test and value readings should be recorded and documented. After the strength test, carry out a leakage test. It consists in maintaining the PS pressure of a given section in the system for the required time. 12 hours is recommended. If the pressure remains constant, despite the passage of time, it can be concluded that there is no leakage in the installation. To increase accuracy, connect the unit to a monitoring system to observe the trend of pressure, drop, or rise in relation to ambient temperature. After successful strength and leakage tests, release the nitrogen from the unit. Remember to fit the safety valves in place. Ensure that all valves on the system are open. This avoids a situation where no vacuum is made in each cut-off section. This is a common mistake resulting from haste. In the case of a long installation, top up the oil in the unit with an additional portion. It is also a good idea to check the installation for leaks and moisture content at this stage. The vacuum must be conducted using a vacuum gauge. Area requires the absolute pressure value to be measured and reached at 2 millibar throughout the system. If the system is contaminated with moisture, we recommend flushing the system with nitrogen and restarting the vacuum pump. Once the vacuum has been prepared, the system should be filled with refrigerant. In our opinion, the most convenient and recommended form of filling the installation is using a gas form. The installation must be completely filled, leaving no section in which there will be a vacuum until the start, because of the risk of dry ice forming. Therefore, only after this step, it is recommended to connect the expansion valve plugs to the unit controller. It is also essential to remember to flush the hoses with refrigerant before connecting them. At this point, it is good to make sure that the main switch is off and then turn it on so that the controller will close the RPV, HPV and winter valves. This ensures that we only fill the suction. The position of the valve can be checked with a magnetic coil for the stepper valves. The use of the evaporator expansion valve permission signal sent by the unit is a basic area requirement that must be met during commissioning. Failure to do so will result in a loss of warranty and a risk of damaging the unit. To make the connection, connect the wires to the dedicated normally open contact, brought out to the XP 1 to 2 connectors on the unit. The signal from this contact must force the evaporator valves to close if the contact is open. Making this connection on the evaporator side depends on the type of valve and controller used. This is the last moment to safely test the evaporator opening permission signal sent by the unit. If it is malfunctioning, there will be a risk of damage to the unit when the system is fully recharged. To check the operation of the operating permit, it is sufficient to turn off the S1 switch during the standstill of the compressor and turn the cooling on one of the evaporators. If the pressure in the system does not start to rise, it means that the valve opening has been stopped by the unit. It is important to verify the operation and parameters assigned to the expansion valves on the installation. Before the first start, it is also a good idea to connect to the controller to review the main settings for verification. To connect to the controller, use the controller's built-in Wi-Fi access point, hotspot, and any device with Wi-Fi and a web browser. Press and hold the B1 button on the controller for 10 seconds. Switching on the controller's Wi-Fi hotspot is signaled by faster blinking of the controller's control LED. Search for a new Wi-Fi network with the name CDU and connect to it using the password given in the manual. Then start your web browser and type 192.168.10.1 in the address bar. To access advanced functions, log in as service using the password 1111. It is also possible to connect to the controller via smartphone and perform the same actions. It is advised to switch to PC view to have access to all parameters. Thank you for your attention. The next episode will show you how to configure the remote control. See you there.